So Valve just released a huge update on their next patch, and I'm going to try to give you a quick highlight of everything. Spells no longer target summons, so you'll stop dooming those Venom wards. Assassins will prioritize attacking instead of jumping around. And rerolls got buffed in that you can't see the same unit that you just rolled from the previous shop. The alliance bonuses that got buffed are Trolls, Bloodbounds, Primordials, and Scrappy. And the alliance bonuses that got nerfed are Warlock, Knights, and Heartless. Although Warlock heal targets more smartly now. Enigma went from being a Warlock to a Shaman, while Tide Hunter went from being a Hunter to a Warrior. So these are the changes for unit costs. The biggest winner being Troll Warlord going from 4 cost to 5 cost, while dealing a fuck ton more damage now. And the biggest loser being Clockwork, going from 1 cost to 3 costs with very little improvements. The biggest nerf in the patch, I would say, is the AoE radius nerf for these big boys. To illustrate how big the nerf is, let's take a look at Tide. He went from having a 2 radius Ravage to a 1 radius Ravage. And what that results in is, instead of having a 5x5 grid Ravage, it's a 3x3 grid Ravage. Most of the time that'll only hit maybe 3 units. That's about as good as a tiny toss. The cooldown for Necro and Kunkka got severely nerfed, while the cooldown for Morph and 3-star Tinker got buffed. Also, the mana costs for Morph, Puck, Mirana, and Lone Druid got buffed, meaning they require less mana to cast their spells. In general, the 3-star version of most heroes got some stat buff. So for example here with Arc Warden, you can see the maximum health, it remained the same for 1-star and 2-star versions, but in the 3-star version, it went up from 2.2k to 2.65k. And you can see this kind of change throughout most of the hero roster. I think this is Valve pushing the players to push harder and more aggressively to 3-star their units rather than dropping units in favor for stronger 1-star units. Alliance items now exist in tier 1, 2, and 3 versions. And with each version, they have their own power level. Now this is a change from before where there was only weak alliance items for, say, demons, but only strong ones for mages. Now there are weak to strong versions for every single alliance. So these 4 items got nerfed in that they got moved into a higher tier, making them more expensive. And these 4 items got buffed in that they got moved to a lower tier and became cheaper or easier to get. The power levels for Daedalus and Chainmail got nerfed, whereas for these items, the power levels got buffed. I would say most of these were deserved, like Higher Class Criminal and Chainmail were too powerful. So the creep rounds got severely buffed. Each unique creep rounds have their individual alliance buffs. So for example, wolves now crit like assassins do, and they hurt a shit ton. So now I think you need to plan uniquely for each individual round. And also now it's harder to save gold for interest, and the game is pushing you now to spend your money more. Also, losing to creep rounds now give you items from the previous tier instead of removing options for your items. And I think that's a less severe punishment. Yo!